Hello, my loves. It is your girl, NicoleHeals, and I'm back with another episode on the Healing Corner with Nicole Heals podcast. If it is your first time here, hi. So happy for you to be here. I hope you enjoy your stay. I hope based on my energy, already, you're looking to stay. Who am I? Well, okay, before I get into that, if it's not your first time here and you're a reoccurring listener, hello. Thank you so much for being here once again. I'm so happy that you're here. And I hope you enjoy this episode. Actually, I know you'll enjoy this episode. But before we get into it, I gotta say who I am, for the people who don't know or the people who forgot. I am Nicole Heals. Who is that? I am a divine healer. I talk about healing. I know about healing. I'm entrenched in healing. Child, I am a highly sensitive person, which is why I know healing, in and out, because child, I gets deep into it. Yeah, I make healing content across multiple platforms, and I specialize specifically in inner child healing because for me, it just makes so much sense. Childhood is where you get all of your wounds that affects you today, at whatever age you are. And wounds from childhood, insults that we get as children from whomever, things that happen to us as children, they stay with us no matter how, seemingly small. If they happen to you, and they're still affecting you, then, it happened to you and it's still affecting you, and it deserves to be acknowledged, to be highlighted, and to be treated like it's a physical wound. Oftentimes we focus more so on the physical, and we see, like, if we got out of something unscathed on the outside, then it's like, oh, we're so grateful, and that means, nothing really happened to us. And a lot of us feel that way about childhood, even, those of us who have been beat, and did not come out unscathed, but I'm really, I guess, here showing my work to the world, showing all of what I know to the world as a way to just affirm, number one, one's inner child, but affirm people's current feelings, affirm people's current pain that they're dealing with right now. No matter how seemingly small, seemingly arbitrary that, your pain is based out of, no matter how seemingly small your wounds are, they still deserve to be acknowledged. And this is the place to acknowledge them. I love feelings. I love getting deep into it. I love talking about the small things and breaking things down into the fine details so that we can come to understand just how deep things really are, just how deep our wounds go, and just how deep, like I said, things really are, because a lot of us have been really desensitized. And I'm not saying that everyone, needs to be as sensitive, as me. But I'm just saying people need to tap back into their sensitivity and get vulnerable with themselves so that they can feel safe to be vulnerable with others. And just doing that spreads way more compassion than pain. So that's who I am. I am, the compassion giver, the healer, basically, all in a nutshell. So, after hearing that, I hope you're intrigued because, over here we gets deep into it. We gets deep into the fine details, honey. And honestly, for me, it's fun. I hope when y'all listening, y'all not like boohoo crying while I'm just like, smiling and laughing, talking about like trauma. But yeah, I like to think that I make it fun. As fun as it can be, because it is trauma. You know what? Let's move on, child. So, ways to support me as a, divine healer. And, as someone who's taking the time, the effort to bestow the knowledge that's been bestowed onto them and bring it out into the world. My equipment, it costs. My time costs, as well as my energy costs. So, if you are also grateful that I am able to, come here week after week, because I do upload weekly, and, keep coming back to give out this information, feel free to hit my Cash App, $NiCCC1. Yes, 3 C's. Feel free also to check out my Patreon, where you can subscribe to me for $4.44 a month. I specifically put that amount because 4 for me is such a healing and divine number. And so, every month when you get charged, you'll get some abundance, you'll get some healing. But also on my Patreon is where you can find some additional content. I do make healing content, not just here. I have other YouTube videos. I have a whole healing series on YouTube. I make content, on Instagram that has to do with healing, of course, on TikTok that has to do with healing, and on Twitter that has to do with healing. And on Twitter, consider following me. Additionally, not just because, I'm cute, not just because I'm a great writer, honey, but also I follow people whose work that I resonate with. So if you feel like you resonate with my work, feel free to follow me on Twitter and see who I retweet and interact with, and you can get some additional healing from them. So subscribing to my Patreon is another way to support me every month. But also follow me on my, social media platforms that I just mentioned, giving me a like, giving me a share, giving me a follow, giving me a comment. All of those things are also, considered currency. And, I greatly appreciate them like any creative does. So I believe that's it. Yeah, let's get into the episode. Yay! I'm excited for this one. I wrote it today. Like literally today. And it just came to me. It was part of an old writing that was just in the vault, and I decided to bring it out. So, I didn't pick an official title, but I just wrote, rejecting other people's narratives of you. Oftentimes, we can feel like another person's narrative of us, their idea and view of us and who we are sort of fixed, like just because they had this thought about us, that just because they have this opinion about us, just because they have this perceived opinion about us based on how they look at us, their mannerisms towards us, or how they treat us, then like however they feel or what's implied based on how they, are interacting with us, then it has to be true. If you perceive, oh, this person seems like they don't really like me, for whatever reason, then you may think that because they don't like you, that you internalize it and think that you are an unlikable person, as if just because someone has a certain thought about us, it must be true. Just because a thought is there, it must be true. It must be right. And so you spend your time and energy either outwardly trying to get to change their opinion of you, or inwardly trying to prove them wrong within yourself, And so this overall happens, number one, to people who have been bullied. Like someone's thoughts of you seems to cause you direct harm, and, harm emotionally, psychologically, or physically. And so you feel that you have to go out of your way to change their opinion or thought of you, because then if you do that, you'll be safe again. You'll be safe. It'll be like before they started picking on you. But if you think about it, because y'all know what I specialize in. I have to go into childhood. I have to. If you think about it, this also sounds familiar. And actually, a side note, I hope that y'all have y'all water, y'all have y'all beverage of choice with you, and you're hydrating and just, decompressing, because I forgot to say this, but this is what the Healing Corner is all about. Being in your healing corner. I'm in mine, if you can see on YouTube, and just decompressing and, coming up on some healing. So with that being said, let's get back into it. So, if you think about it, this also sounds familiar when you think about childhood and parenting. Ooh, it's about to be Halloween. Ooh, it's getting spooky, honey. It is getting scary, but no need to be actually scared, because, you got the light with you. If you're just listening to this on a podcast, I meant the light as in me. People on YouTube knew because I pointed to myself. That's so weird. Like, that's the weird thing about filming like a podcast episode. Like, you have to be sure to like narrate the things that you do on video. Yeah, it's kind of trippy, but I can handle it. But anyways, so childhood and parenting. For a lot of us, our parents were controlling. They did not allow us to speak up for ourselves. They did not apologize and take accountability. A lot of parents are allergic to accountability and think that they're literally gonna combust if they choose to be accountable, if they choose to apologize and take responsibility, for their actions towards you. Ciao. They did not consider our side of events. And, when it came to conflict and punishment. And so, just like in being bullied, and this is where the hard part comes in with realizations. Just like in being bullied, this person, your parent or your parents, your guardian, whoever, your caretaker or caretakers that actually are your authority, and are in charge of you, whereas a bully, just places themselves above you and creates that sort of outlook that they are your authority in some way. These people that actually are in charge of you create a whole world or outlook within you in which they have the last word. They don't even let anyone else have a word. They're the only ones talking. They're the only ones that can express how they feel and their feelings, even though they're not really expressing their feelings. They just maybe expressing like their disappointment with your failure to follow them or like let them control you, Ciao. But only they can be right. And essentially, their word is law. And further, essentially, they are always right, and what they say goes. So when we're children in our minds, they create an outlook within us in which only what they say is true, no matter what. And you have to listen to them. Their views are law. Their thoughts are permanent, are concrete. And their opinions in general, but specifically of you and your behavior, can be the only ones that are right, that are valid, and that hold any weight, that are true, and that hold any weight within you. You have to understand that when someone constantly lacks accountability and always positions themselves to be right, their views to be the right ones, and for you to always be wrong, they may deny your experience because it doesn't fit in with their views, and they may just refuse to listen or hear you. That can fall under the realm of gaslighting. Yeah, because from the view of the child, this person that positions themselves psychologically as your authority, who are physically much bigger than you, physically, but also in rank, in the family structure, let alone the actual size difference, the deeper, louder voice, the authoritative demeanor, taking all that into account, and the fact that you literally rely on this person or these people for survival. Yes, they've been there from the beginning. You as a child really had no choice but to believe that their way is the right way over yours. You had no choice but to yield to their thinking and curb your own, and as you can see, that really stifles development. You can't solve problems on your own because they're not allowing you to use your own mind, whether in a certain way or fully. Some people can resonate with their parents wanting to fully control them in the way that they thought. Some people can only resonate when it comes to certain instances, but if you resonate with it at all, listen, I got some knowledge for you, child. I'm dumb. But yeah. So you felt like you had to let their thoughts and opinions seep in and curate what is your inner world, or just that is what happened. It seeped in and curated, made up your inner world. And your inner world in terms of, the thoughts that just pop in your head. If you ever heard the term, your parent's voice, it becomes your inner voice, or the parent's voice becomes the child's inner voice, and you pay attention to your own thoughts, you may see literally that sometimes if you make a certain mistake, or maybe if you start to think on your own, or thinking on your own, you develop thoughts or a full opinion that differs from them, you may hear their voice in your head telling you like no, or telling you, certain phrases that they always used to say. That is their thoughts seeping in and curating your inner world, because that may make you change your whole opinion and fit theirs. You have no choice but to yield under their harm. Yeah, harm. You had no choice but to yield under their violence. Yes, violence. And I want you to hold that. If it makes you uncomfortable and you reject it, that's fine. But still, hold it. Put it in your back pocket. Consider the word violence. Consider it. Just consider it. Their forcefulness and harmful measures that they chose to make you always question yourself, but never question them. That's psychological trauma. And if you don't like, the word trauma, it feels a little too, official or dramatic for you, just say harm. That's psychological harm. And no matter what word you want to use, it's still bad. But I specifically say psychological trauma because consider this. If it were different people, they weren't your parents, it had nothing to do with parenting, they would be labeled as bullies. But because it falls under, the realm of parenting, everyone likes to, put their hands up and back off of these topics. Not me. Over here, we get into it, honey. Over here, we ain't scared. So thank you for staying with me and letting me take you on this roller coaster, honey. Because, of course, there is that context, the fact that these people are literally in charge of you and your parents, your caretakers, that is context that you have to consider, because these people are literally in charge of raising you and they're doing it to protect you, and they probably don't really either believe in thinking about this or really care to think about harm reduction in parenting. They are just looking at, I guess a will to protect you, like they're just looking at it as protection and saying like, well, this is the best I can do, or I'm trying to protect you. So yeah, even if you are harmed, I'm still doing my job to protect you. So they think, but yeah, this is why, they want to raise you in a certain way so that they believe will help you excel in life. And that's understandable, but it just doesn't excuse, we have to talk about these things because there is a person still who has been harmed, and that was me, and that is you, and that is so many people who are listening to this right now, who are watching this right now, because of this treatment. And the harmed, wounded child that you are or that is within still, after all of these years, after decades, they deserve to have their feelings and emotions and thoughts and opinions considered on the matter. Yes, even years later. They don't deserve to constantly still, years later, where the parents are probably out of the picture, have their thoughts dismissed, their pain dismissed, and ignored because you don't want to uncover that pain, or you don't want to believe that it's that deep, because of your own fear. And of course, a lot of us swat these thoughts away, not even really knowing that, it's something deeper. And that's okay. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying, you still deserve to have your emotional needs let alone met, but acknowledged in the very least. And And I hope that you know that you can come here to this healing community, to this space, to let that happen, because you deserve it. We all deserve it. Don't deny yourself that, because you don't have to. You should have never had to, but you don't have to anymore. So moving forward, going through this as a child can create a sense of self-consciousness, deep self-consciousness, and a fear of other people's thoughts and opinions of you, other people's perception of you. You'd rather not be seen. You have social anxiety and you get exhausted while you're out. Whew. Let me tell you, this example that I'm about to give right now, or the way I'm about to break this down, was literally my life. Ciao. Especially as a highly sensitive person. But I'm sure people who don't consider themselves highly sensitive, also go through this. So you have social anxiety. You rather not be seen. You get exhausted while you're out, yet you want to be out, maybe less with your friends and more with strangers, but the feeling is still there all the same. Because even with your friends, you're hyper aware and hyper vigilant of people seeing you. And you're trying to figure out how they feel about you and what you're doing and what you're wearing and how you're presenting. You're thinking of how you're being perceived at every moment, trying to find a sense of control, which is a never-ending game. Because if it's one thing that I have learned, honey, you can never control another person's thoughts of you. You just can't. I'm so sorry. You can't. You can try to fight it, but that hurts you more than, that harms you more than, does any good to you. It only keeps you outside of yourself, number one, outside of your body, and in the minds of other people, in the energy of other people. You're allowing all of this energy in from strangers to try and decipher how they feel about you, which can I don't want to say be dangerous as to fear monger or anything, but at the very least, it can just be very uncomfortable. Because you're constantly trying to look at yourself from the view of other people. You have all of this foreign energy around you, in your energetic space, in your aura that you're going to sleep with, that you're moving around in the world with, that you're just chilling with. That's bad spiritual hygiene, honey. And it just feels very stuffy. It feels very uncomfortable. And let alone the anxiety. Oh my gosh. When I tell y'all, I used to have such horrible anxiety, every second of the day. And I never knew why. And it was because of this hypervigilance, but also because I was willingly letting all of these other people's energy around me, especially the people who made it known that they did not like me and took satisfaction in seeing me try to change their opinion of me, And that is the part, where it can get dangerous. But that's not the point of this episode. So moving along. Long story short, you'd rather not be seen, because of, you're trying to, it gets tiring trying to control other people's opinion of you. And this is a common thing that children who suffered harm under non-accountable parents do. when you're out, you're constantly trying to figure out what other people need and to be that, so that it is ensured that people like you. Because at one point, you had to make sure that your parents liked you, they liked your behavior, they liked your tone of voice, these little fine details of you. You had to pick yourself apart based on your perceived your perception of like what these people liked. These people meaning your parents or your caretakers. You had to pick yourself apart based on what you think that they would like, how you think they would like you to act and be. And you did that. And the reason why you do that with other people, so that it's ensured that they like you. Think about when I was just talking about bullying. So that your safety is ensured. So it's ensured that you're safe. So it's ensured that you won't encounter harm, emotional and psychological. And for a lot of us, physical. Because in childhood, your parents weren't like that, but you were bullied, or your parents were like that, but you weren't bullied, or, if you had the double combo like I had, my personal fave, you were bullied and your parents were like that, you picked up on the fact that you were unsafe when people did not like you, or did not like something that you did, or had bad perceptions of you and your behavior. There was a correlation to the way that they thought about you and receiving a type of punishment or consequence based on their thought, And so now you spend all this time trying to fix yourself so that you don't have to undergo harm every second of the day. Based on making like regular life mistakes that children make. Shout. I do that because you'll be so surprised, like what people will complain about with children. Child, you know what? If I get into that, this is going to be like a 3-hour episode, and I'm not trying to do that. Like, first of all, I'm kind of tired. Second of all, I don't got that time, and neither do y'all. So let's just keep it light for now on. But I will, later on in the game, I will get into that. But this is essentially how they shape your world with their perception, their preferences, their opinions, and make what they think about you and the things that you do matter more to you than how and what you think of yourself. Child. To a lot of people, especially to a lot of parents, this is just parenting. This is just making sure that the child has them in mind when, when they're out in the world, when they're with the parent, when they're away from the parent, when they're just existing and displaying behavior, choosing how to be so that the choice is always right, so that the choice is conveniently always in the parent's arena of thought, of opinion, of morality, and always essentially in line with what and how the parent thinks. The problem with this idea is balance. It's normal to want to instill a certain set of morals that you think is right into your child and children. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem comes with the control, the means, and the way that you go about it, because humans need choice. Not only that, they need individuality, because they're not little versions of you. They're their own whole person. Yes, even as a child, not just, when they become an adult, then that's when they can be a full person. But, when they're a child, they're mine, in that like possessive way. Humans need choice, and they need a sense of individuality to be able to express that choice and even come up to the choices that they would prefer to make. Because if they don't really know themselves, but they know you, how can they make their own choices? Choose between different things and come to their own conclusions. How can they problem solve, if you're just helicoptering around them, hovering over them, making sure they choose right? What's so wrong about being wrong? What, like, if they draw outside the lines, will they literally die? No. Like, it's just child. But anyway, humans need choice, in order to feel in control of their lives. That's a necessity. That's a need for us to feel in control of our lives. And if they don't, like I said, then our development is damaged if they're children. But if one goes through this as an adult, in a romantic relationship, in a friendship, or even at a job, in whatever way, then it's classified literally as psychological harm. That's not something that can be ignored just because we're talking about parenting. It can't. These things have to be acknowledged. These facts have to be acknowledged. Your feelings and emotions deserve to be acknowledged. They have to. If you're going to take control of your life, a lot of us are 35 plus, 30 plus, 18 plus. What I'm getting at is we're whole adults still making choices based on what our parents would prefer, how our parents would feel about them. That's not healthy. It's one thing to have your parents in mind and like what they instilled in you and taught you, the things that you actually like, and that you had a choice in like figuring out, if you like this or not, but you did, and so you incorporate it into yourself. That's fine. But a lot of us are stifling ourselves and our lives, like our full lives, and not going after our dreams, and not going after what truly makes us happy, what truly brings us joy, what truly excites us. Because our parents are still controlling us, even when we're not in their house anymore, not under their rule anymore. That's where the psychological harm comes in. Stockholm syndrome, child. Why did I say it like that? Anyway, when you don't give your kids a choice, and there's always a fearful, harmful consequence at the result of them making mistakes, then there really is no balance, in that relationship. They are just being delegated and controlled, and that results in many different things. But what we're talking about today is the creation of narratives and feeling like the way that others perceive you is right, and believing other people over your own thoughts of yourself. For the child within that resonates with this is the reason why other people's thoughts and opinions of you matter so much. because you're used to having to try and sway your parents or a bully's opinion of you in order to survive. You know, it's that deep. For survival, to survive harm, and to gain some sort of control when you're in such a helpless situation. This is why another person's opinion of you may seem so permanent, as if what they think, or as if because they think this, then it must be true. And it's why it feels so true to you. This is why you feel helpless when someone misunderstands you or has a negative opinion of you, because you're used to negative opinions and judgments shaping your views and outlook of your life. You know, out of force. You know? Yeah. And honestly, the way to help this, to really start healing this, is to be alone. And I know a lot of us kind of go out of our way to make people like us because inside we feel lonely. But also, we don't really feel safe making our own decisions for our lives. You know, decisions for ourselves. And so we may rely heavily on friends, you know, in an unhealthy way. And we may have, let's get into it a little bit. We may have formed attachments, unhealthy attachments with people who we call our friends, who we think of as our friends, who depend on us to always come to them. Depend on us to allow them to control us. And their part of the attachment, their end of the bargain, is that they get to feel important in some way. That this person is coming to them, you know, for all these answers. I feel smart. I feel important. And not gonna lie, when you start thinking for yourself, when you start rejecting other people's opinions because, you know, you don't want them, you want to form your own first, or you just want to have your own opinion on something that has to do with your life, and you don't really want to hear another person's, they may get very offended, you know, when they feel the energy change up. They may leave. And it'll hurt. Not gonna lie, but you'll be able to form, they're making room for more quality connections of people, with people that let you be an individual, you know, that allow you to have that necessary and healthy autonomy and let you create a sense of self outside of anyone else's opinion of you. And they won't just outright give their own opinion on something because they know you may not want it. You know, they know it's probably not their place. They won't overstep your boundaries. And can I just say, is it a breath of fresh air? Is it a drink of some nice cold water, honey? Woo, child. But yeah, this is how you heal it, to be alone, to not really rid yourself, but what's that word? Distance yourself from like this onslaught of like other people's opinions, especially taking social media breaks. You know, because this is the thing with social media. It allows you to gauge what's the quote unquote right way to be and instinctively adapt yourself to that view and sense of being. And so anyone who's resonated with this episode, it's really important to take necessary social media breaks so that you're not unconsciously relying on other people still telling you what to do, how to feel about things, and what kind of opinions you should have on things. You know, it's time to take charge of your life. and form your own opinions, even if they are unpopular or they are quote unquote wrong. Because then, now that they've surfaced, you know, you always have the ability to change them. You know, like, I know as children, being wrong seemed like such a barbaric, savage thing, you know, such a horrible thing. But it's not. I promise you, it really is not. And so, you know, tapping in and poking around within yourself so that you're able to, you know, see what is underneath the surface, what is really underneath the surface, it can't hurt. And if your opinions, you know, like you see that you're not comfortable with them, you can always change them. That's fine. But back to the script, child. But yeah, distance yourself from your family or friends or any strong influence, because it should ultimately be you who is your strongest influence. And that's what we're trying to make happen. Spending more time alone with your own hobbies, your own interests, without someone telling you what to like, without someone being there to approve of or deny or reject, you know, without them telling you how to like it or what you should like, you know, it's ultimately what's going to start your healing process and start the process of taking back your life, which should have been yours in the first place, you know? And so it's really going to liberate you, because ultimately it should be your own organic thoughts and opinions of yourself up there in your mind, not anyone else's. You know, you have to spend more time with yourself, learning who you are, you know, learning yourself, learning how you think, you know, learning the fine details of yourself so that you can fully and truly embody who you are authentically. Because you're not what your parents thought of you as a child. And a lot of us get stuck in that role. You don't have to fulfill that role anymore. You know, you can move away from it and it's not going to hurt you. You're not going to combust. You don't have to be scared anymore. You can exist outside of your parents' thought of you, of other people's thoughts of you, but also outside of your family role and structure. You can. Best believe you're looking at it. You're looking at a physical embodiment of it, child. Hello. But yeah, seeing what you think of things before wondering what is the popular way to think, that's getting back to you. Coming to your own conclusions first before you bring it to other people to go over or discuss. It can be a movie, it can be a TV show, it can be a real life incident. You know, choosing, if like two friends are fighting, choosing to first not see whose side you want to be on, but see who you think was in the right and who you think was in the wrong. That's fine. You know, you don't have to always go with the popular opinion. You don't always have to not convert. I guess convert to the group, you know, for lack of a better word right now. You don't always have to conform, is what I'm saying. Yes, conformity. You know, it's important to, lastly, it's important to create that connection within yourself again, because it was there at first. It just got disrupted for a while. But it's important to create that connection with yourself again that was once severed, so that another person can control you, whether they call it control or not. And it's important to do that so that you aren't just pushed around by people in your life. And so that you aren't just pushed around by life, because you don't deserve that. And your inner child never deserved that either. And it's up to you to teach them that. And how do you do it? By being alone. Nah, but by poking within yourself. That's how you do it. Episode done. That's all on my script. Thank y'all so much for listening. I appreciate y'all for listening. If you liked and resonated, give me a tweet, give me a shout out, give me a holla. And I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.